green, green.
These drivers put on a great show on every type of track. Driving these cars, banging off of each other.
No, he gets sideways. He's off the racetrack. There he goes, trying to make the pass. If you're a driver trying to get in, you get little opportunities like that. Watch how hard these guys are going to drive.
Checkered flag in the air.
Checkered flag there, champion.
And welcome to Rockingham Speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina. A champion will be crowned today in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. It's the Classic 3 Championship. 14 races determine the 2012 champion. I'm Rick Allen alongside Phil Parsons, Derek Pernissiglio covering all the stories on pit road today. A beautiful day in North Carolina, 63 degrees, a light breeze as we're getting ready for the final race of the 2012 season. And we look at the point standings after 13 races, a 10-point difference between Kyle Larson and Brett Moffitt. Corey LaJoie, 19 points back. Let's hear from the top two. They're standing by with Derek Pernissiglio.
Thanks, guys. It's the last race of the season, and it all comes down to it today here at Rockingham Speedway. 10 points separate Kyle Larson from Brett Moffitt. And Kyle, what's the mindset? What's the plan going into today's race?
Don't really have much of a plan, just try and do what we've been doing all season long. Let's just be consistent and stay out of trouble. So hopefully we'll miss a couple wrecks and be clean for the last 50 laps. So just stay out of trouble and let the points take care of themselves.
How about you, Brett? You've raced here before. You've got some laps here. What's your plan for today?
Like Kyle said, it's all going to be about being there at the end. You got to be there at the end. You got to save your stuff, and hopefully we'll come out of here with a win, and hopefully it'll be enough to beat Kyle in points. But you never know.
Keep an eye on both of these two drivers. It's the closest points race in the last 5 years in this series.
Thanks, Derek. You may wonder why Corey LaJoie wasn't up there at the top of the point standings, because our last race, Greenville-Pickens, he actually won and had a point lead as we look back on that race at Greenville-Pickens.
Yeah, an outstanding job by Corey LaJoie. You see him on the inside of Arteaga in that pink numbered number 07 for breast cancer awareness.
Late caution coming out. Corey LaJoie still battling for the win here at Greenville-Pickens.
That's Jimmy Weller, the 31. This is the coming down for the final lap here. Gets into the back of Brett Moffitt to take the lead.
Moffitt slides. Big wreck behind Corey LaJoie as the checkered flag flies, but a lot of carnage. So Corey LaJoie ends up winning this race. But, Phil, there's a penalty after this race to the 017.
Yeah, the NASCAR officials found that they had done some internal modifications to the carburetor. That's not allowed. They docked him 25 points.
Let's hear from Corey now.
Well, Corey LaJoie is the driver who sits third in points. He gets knocked back to third after a penalty at Greenville last week. But, Corey, what's your mindset going into today's race?
My mindset's the same as it's been all years. Go out there and win the race and get max points and let everybody else worry about themselves. So I can't control what other people are going to do, whether it's Brett or Kyle, or, I can't control if something's going to happen to them or they're going to win the race. I'm just going to worry about this 07 car getting a victory lane.
The last time you've been at this track, you won 3 late model races here. Does that give you a lot of confidence going into today's race?
It gives you a little bit of confidence, yeah, but there's a bunch of good cars that are in this deal and a lot of guys that have some experience on this racetrack. I'm just going to try to apply some things that I learned in the late model, and whether or not they go with this car with a little bit heavier and a little bit more power remains to be seen.
Corey LaJoie starts fourth today.
Phil, tricky racetrack. What are the storylines for this one?
Well, I think the biggest thing here, Rick, is tire management. We talk about Rockingham throughout the years, how it eats tires. You have to manage those tires. You have to make the right adjustments at the halftime break, and then you have to move around this racetrack. You can run from the bottom to the top, find you some grip.
Kyle Larson has a 10-point lead over Brett Moffitt. All he has to do is finish fifth, and the championship is his. Easier said than done. And welcome back to the Rock. Cars now rolling on the racetrack. Phil, you had mentioned that tire management probably the biggest storyline here at the Rock. For more on tires, let's go back down to Derek.
Well, tire management is always the issue here in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, but especially at the Rockingham Speedway. As a matter of fact, every series that races here has always got to worry about tire management because the track is so rough. And it's all about these babies this afternoon. These tires have got to last you till the halfway break. You can't just sprint to the halfway break and come in and make changes. You're going to have to conserve in the first 50 laps, make the adjustments that you're going to need, and then conserve for the second 50 laps of this race.
Thanks, Derek. Take a look at our starting grid. CJ Faison grabs his first ever pole in the K&N Pro Series East.
Darrell Wallace Jr. will start outside him. Coleman Presley makes his first start of the year in the final race.
Corey LaJoie, Brett Moffitt nose to tail against each other as far as running for a championship. Kyle Larson way back there in 11th.
Yeah, and Chase Elliott back in the 15th position, 4th in points coming in here.
We have 7 drivers that are making their first start of the 2012 season in the K&N Pro Series East, as well as 4 drivers making their first ever East Series start. So it should be an interesting race here at Rockingham. Pace cars off the racetrack. CJ Faison in control as they come out of turn 4. Green flag in the air, we're underway. Chocolate Myers doing the honors there of waving the green flag.
Nice jump by Darrell Wallace Jr. on the outside. Remember, you can run all the way around this racetrack from the bottom to the top.
And Darrell Wallace Jr. grabs that lead early as they rocket down the backstretch.
CJ Faison right now falls into the 2nd spot. Corey LaJoie slotted in 3rd.
Running back in the 4th spot, the 15 of Coleman Presley. Coleman starting this race in the 3rd spot, so drops back 1.
See the 98 of Tyler Reddick all the way down, already on top of the racetrack, side by side with Moffitt for 5th.
Tyler Reddick, one of those drivers I had mentioned as far as starting his first ever K&N Pro Series East race, and a pretty good starting spot for that young man.
Yeah, he certainly did, and believe it or not, this is only his 3rd race this season on pavement. He ran a couple of the ARCA Racing Series events on short tracks. He's only 16 years old.
Yeah, his best finish this year in a stock car on pavement, Salem, where he finished 8th. So out in front of the field, Darrell Wallace Jr. setting the pace.
Rick, don't you know that Darrell Wallace Jr. would love to end this season in Victor Lane? It has not been a season that he was expecting. He would have thought he was going to battle for that championship as we watch Cale Conley, Brian Ortiz battle side by side for 9th. He did get that win early on at Greenville, but has been shut out since.
Yeah, after coming into this season with 5 career wins, we expect a little bit more out of Darrell Wallace Jr. this year, but like you mentioned, things just haven't gone his way. Now Cale Conley was able to clear that 4 of Brian Ortiz, but Ortiz all over the back bumper as they work their way through 3 and 4.
Yeah, Cale got that first career win this year up at Columbus Motor Speedway.
Top 4 have separated themselves. Coleman Presley running in the 4th spot. Just in front of him, Corey LaJoie closed the gap between he and CJ Faison running 2nd, but it's Darrell Wallace Jr. now that's going to have his hands full as CJ Faison has closed the gap all over his back bumper. Let's hear more on our leader from Derek.
Well, the number 18 is out in front right now, but I just talked to his crew chief, and he said don't expect us to keep that speed up for very long. Because the track is so hard on tires, the race pace will slow down from 1 to 2 seconds once you get 10 to 15 laps on the tires.
And again, a 100-lap race. We do have a halftime break, so they can make it to lap 50 in this series.
Yeah, I think that they need to see what they can get away with to lap 50. If they really fall off more at the end because of the pace that Darrell's setting, then he knows to back off a little bit. But right now, already 8 miles an hour slower than our pole-winning speed these guys are running.
And we're only on lap 7. CJ Faison looks to the inside just for a moment of that 18 of Darrell Wallace Jr., but we're talking about the pace that Darrell Wallace Jr. has set. Single file now, all the way back through the field.
See a glimpse of Ben Kennedy, the 96 car. What a breakout season for him this year.
He's done very well. His career best finish 3rd at Bowman Gray earlier this year.
He won a race in France this year. That's not many people in this field can say that.
Although we do have a very diversified field here as far as from different countries. England is represented, Mexico, we've got Canada represented, so a pretty diverse crowd.
Yeah, and North Carolina.
North Carolina. Tyler Reddick, again, the 16-year-old in that number 98. Is the 97 of Jesse Little looking at the inside.
Been very impressed with Jesse Little. Just a handful of starts this year, but 3rd last time out at Greenville for that youngster. His dad, Chad, had a very successful career in NASCAR, a number of nationwide wins.
You see the yellow stripe on the back bumper of that race car. Rookie status for quite a few of the drivers here at Rockingham. We did see quite a few drivers coming out because they were running at Rockingham. A lot of drivers had never raced on this racetrack, and this opportunity came up, so we saw quite a few drivers come out of, I guess, semi-retirement to run in this race.
Yeah, this is a great facility. Always has been. Unfortunately, the Cup Series stopped running here several years ago, but so glad that Andy Hillenberg jumped out on a limb, bought this facility, had some great ARCA Racing Series events, and had a terrific Truck Series race here back in April.
Yep, and the Truck Series announced that they will be back in 2013, and around goes our first driver. Caution comes out for Chuck Buchanan in the 19. A lot of damage to the back of that race car.
Yeah, it looks like Chuck had some trouble exiting turn number 2, and again, there's not a whole lot of room down that back stretch. A lot of damage to that 19 front and rear.
And pieces of that race car falling off as he's going to try to make his way back into the garage.
It appears that that'll be terminal for Chuck, unfortunately.
So caution number 1 comes out. We'll reset the order. Darrell Wallace Jr., C.J. Faison, your top 2 at Rockingham. And welcome back. Classic 3 Championship presented by RCR Racing Museum, about to go back to green as we're 2x2. Green flag back in the air. Darrell Wallace Jr. with another great restart.
Yeah, able to get a good jump. Now Corey LaJoie looks to the inside of Faison, and Coleman Presley makes the pass from the outside.
Working that high line, the 98 of Tyler Reddick trying to make the move. He moves up into the 4th spot now, battling for the 3rd.
It looks like he may have 3rd on Faison here. That outside groove is coming in. We talk about looking for grip. Looks like Reddick's looking for some, and maybe he found some.
They're still side by side for that 3rd spot as they rocket down the front stretch and into turn number 1. Just a nose in front of Faison, but Reddick's going to take the spot. Reddick up to 3rd.
Nice job by Reddick here. Again, first ever start here in the K&N series.
Just 16 years old. That amazes me, the youth that is in this series. But this is definitely a ladder system for NASCAR and a way for these young drivers to get experience in these stock cars and move up to the top ranks of NASCAR.
That's right. Reddick has more success and experience on dirt than he does asphalt.
Kyle Larson in the 6, your points leader coming in, able to get by that 47 of Cale Conley. Now the move on the inside, Jimmy Weller in the 31 takes the spot as well.
Yeah, nice run through the center of the corner for Jimmy Weller. You see Brett Moffitt now falls in behind the 07 of Corey LaJoie.
Moffitt trying to get up to the front. We've talked about what Kyle Larson has to do. If he finishes 5th in this race, it doesn't matter what Brett Moffitt does. Brett Moffitt, if he gets up and wins this race, and Kyle Larson finishes in 6th, it would be a dead tie in the points, and Moffitt would end up getting the win because of the win in this race.
Yeah, the tiebreaker would be number of wins. Right now they come into this race both with 2 wins. That would give 3 for Moffitt and the championship, but we've got a long way to go. We've got another 82 laps to decide this thing.
Yeah, we didn't think that points would ever end up in a tie after last year in the Cup Series between Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart, but the possibility does exist.
There's a 9 of Chase Elliott. Chase was a point leader at one point during the season.
Chase is being trailed by the 4 of Brian Ortiz. See Moffitt is the 97 of Jesse Little behind him now. And still out front, Darrell Wallace Jr. being tailed by Coleman Presley.
Yeah, Coleman's been able to stay right with Darrell Wallace Jr. here after 20 laps. Again, these guys now are about 12 miles an hour slower than the pole speed of 146.
And Phil, after 20 laps of a 100-lap race, we're still seeing a lot of guys hug that yellow line. For example, Coleman Presley right down on the yellow line through the center of the corner, but Darrell Wallace Jr. running up about a half a groove now.
Yeah, you just want to find some grip anywhere you can. You see Darrell again run that high line a little bit here. It gets him a pretty good angle off the corner. He drives in a little higher, gets the thing pointed a little bit in the center of the corner, and he has a good exit.
Now these two have pulled away from young Tyler Reddick, who's running in the 3rd spot. Again, there will be a halftime break around lap 50, but it's Darrell Wallace Jr. that since the drop of the green flag took the top spot away from C.J. Faison and hasn't given it up.
See Coleman right there in the 15 car for X-Team Racing. Coleman's trying to get something put together for a full season next year. Ran a handful of races last year. Very, very competitive. A couple poles in his 7 starts, and I think 3 top 5 finishes, including a 2nd at Greenville last year for his career best.
Coleman Presley still hasn't been to victory lane, as you mentioned, 2nd, the best ever finish for that young man. And just in front of him, Darrell Wallace Jr., the opposite end of the spectrum. He's won 6 races, 1 this year. Maybe a little bit of a letdown after what we saw him do the year previous.
And obviously a good team with Joe Gibbs Racing, but he made the most of his opportunities to run the Nationwide Series. Every time he jumped in that Nationwide car for Joe Gibbs Racing, he finished in the top 10.
He's looked very impressive. At 07 of Corey LaJoie. Phil, how difficult is it for a driver to come in after getting penalized and leading the championship points to keep his emotions in check for this final race.
It had to be so hard for Corey. Talked to him, you know, he just said, all I can do is concentrate on going out there trying to win this race. And, you know, obviously he has to rely on some trouble from his other point contenders. Kyle Larson, and then certainly Brett Moffitt as well. But he said, all I can do is go out. I've had a great season. I've won 5 races this year out of the 13 so far. Nothing would be better than winning that 6th.
He's the running Kyle Larson, again with a 10-point lead starting this race. Moffitt just in front of him, so he's trying to keep that 11 in sight and this championship in sight, as we see Jimmy Weller in the 31 making a move, look into the inside.
Yeah, he's going to lose a little bit of that momentum. It's going to open up the bottom of the racetrack for Sergio Pena in the 1 car.
Pena takes that spot away from Weller. Weller back down to the bottom of the racetrack, and we saw Pena wave out the window there.
You know, I'm curious as to whether Larson is just taking his time, taking it easy, because right now, you know, if Brett Moffitt could mount a challenge and get up there, he would not be in the position to clinch. So curious to see what kind of adjustments his guys are going to make at the halftime too. And again, maybe he's just taking it easy. We're only halfway through this first half.
Jesse Little looks to the inside of Corey LaJoie now, battling for the 5th spot. Little had been all over the back bumper. That 07 takes the 5th spot away from LaJoie.
A new sponsor on board that 97 this week, Charlotte Checkers, AHL hockey team based in Charlotte, North Carolina, has come on board to sponsor Jesse Little.
Still hockey being played.
Yeah, that's right, in Charlotte. Anyway,
right.
Maybe not so much NHL, but
Corey LaJoie now just a car length in front of Brett Moffitt as they run around this mile racetrack. Very difficult and abrasive surface.
You don't get much more abrasive than this racetrack. And when we talk about the abrasiveness and we talk about the fact that it wears tires out, that's not a bad thing. That's really a good thing. It's a very challenging racetrack. It's a driver's racetrack.
Puts more of the handling in the hands of the drivers behind the wheel here.
How about Jesse Little jumping to the inside of Faison in a battle for 4th?
Got that inside line as they cross the stripe and work their way into turn 1. And it looks as though Little's going to take the 4th spot away.
As we talked about earlier, 3rd place at Greenville, last time out for his career best.
And moving toward the front. Tyler Reddick in front of this group now, and the 97 of Little closing the gap.
We've run almost 30 laps now in this first segment, so now these guys have an idea, a good idea. As we see Cale Conley making an unscheduled pit stop, going to bring his car to the attention of David Hyder as crew chief.
You're about 20 laps away from a halftime break, so Cale Conley brings that onto pit road, and we stay green. Darrell Wallace Jr. in front of Coleman Presley here at Rockingham. From Rockingham Speedway in the Classic 3 Championship, Darrell Wallace Jr. has closed in and passed some of the slower lap traffic now.
That's the 37 of Tim George Jr. Tim, a normal competitor in the Nationwide and the Truck Series, going to run his only a 2nd time ever in the K&N car.
You know, Phil, I'm starting to see some smoke coming out of the back of that 18. Could that potentially be tire rub?
Could be tire rub, maybe a little bit of oil smoke. Let's see if we can see exactly where the smoke is. Normally, if it's in the corner only, then it's probably a tire rub, but if we see it down the straightaway, that may be more of an engine oil leak.
It does look like.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely see it there at the end of the front straightaway.
It looks like that's smoking all the way around this racetrack. We haven't heard anything from drivers, though, complaining about it.
Yeah, the NASCAR officials are keeping a good eye on it as we watch Chase Elliott, the 9 car, go to the high side, following the 98 of Reddick, getting by Brett Moffitt in the 11 car. Brett's falling back a little bit.
And problem on the front stretch. The 70 gets around. That is Rafael Valina into the wall. Also getting caught up a little bit. It looked like Stephen Lejeune in the 5 car. But we see the 70 of Rafael Valina come to stop right on the exit of pit road.
See a lot of damage to the front and the rear of that 70 car. 3rd career start in the E Series for Valina.
Unfortunate. Take another look. This is in progress.
This is right down at the entrance to turn number 1.
Looked like he was really high and had gotten up into the wall just as he was entering turn number 1, as we see Frank Denny Jr. on pit road.
Yeah, Frank's making his first start ever. A great late model racer from Virginia. Won the big race at Martinsville in the past, the 300 lapper.
They brought Stephen Lejeune onto pit road. Take a look at that race car. Again, he was right there when the 70 was going around out of turn 1. So the field 2x2 once again. Darrell Wallace Jr., your race leader since the drop of the green flag. He's been out front.
And he's going to take the outside and give the bottom of the racetrack to Coleman Presley. Just a handful of laps here before the halftime break.
Darrell Wallace Jr. on the high side, Coleman Presley on the low side. Pace car leaves the racetrack. Field back in the hands of that 18. Tyler Reddick back behind them. Green flag back in the air. Another great restart for Darrell Wallace Jr. Here comes Coleman Presley to the inside, though.
Coleman's going to try to make something happen here before the halftime break. He has a bit of an edge. You see that smoke still trailing from Darrell's car.
Side by side for the lead. Going into turn number 3. Darrell Wallace Jr. pinches down the 15 of Coleman Presley.
Contact.
Up the racetrack they go. Coming out of turn 4, 3 wide for the lead. Here comes the 97 of Little. Little and Darrell Wallace Jr. across the stripe, almost identical.
What a great job by Jesse Little to notice that those guys were side by side and their momentum slowed a little bit.
Took advantage of that opening, and he takes second away now. So Coleman Presley drops back to the 3rd spot. Darrell Wallace Jr. holds on to the lead.
You see Moffitt trying to make a move around Reddick, but Reddick goes all the way to the top of the racetrack trying to get by Coleman Presley.
And Jesse Little looks to the inside of that 18 as we have reached the halfway point of this race. Again, that halftime break will be coming up momentarily. Out in front, Darrell Wallace Jr., Jesse Little running second.
Tyler Reddick now in the 3rd spot, Coleman Presley 4th, as they will throw the caution flag for the halftime break. It sure looked like these guys were racing for the end of the race, not halftime.
Yeah, I think they realize that they will have the same positions when they come out from the halftime break, so they're racing like they had to win the race at lap 50. Darrell Wallace Jr. leading the race at Rockingham. Can he hold on? Welcome back. Classic 3 Championship presented by RCR Racing Museum. Yes, you take a look at the 18 all the way at the back of the field. And we speculated earlier that there was some smoke coming out of that race car. They can't make major changes to these cars at halftime break.
Yeah, all they're allowed to do at the halftime break is anything they would do on a normal pit stop. Anything outside of that, whether they repaired an oil leak or something, some other damaged part, is out of the realm of that, and they would have to go to the back and forfeit their position. Obviously, that must have been what happened with Darrell. We'll send Derek down there to see what he can find out.
We'll see if Derek can find out the rest of the story on the 18. But anyway, NASCAR has put him to the back of the field. That means Jesse Little will restart up front. He has Coleman Presley on his outside. Green flag back in the air.
Big moment for Jesse Little. First time he's ever led one of these major NASCAR races, and he beats Coleman Presley down to turn number 1.
As the fresh tires works through 1 and 2 better than anyone else, and now has a 6-car length lead as they go down the backstretch. Here comes the 16-year-old Tyler Reddick, takes second away from Coleman Presley.
Brett Moffitt's going to try to take 3rd away from Coleman Presley.
And just as we were talking about Derek, you found out more on what's going on with that 18 of Darrell Wallace Jr. What happened down there?
Big heartbreak for Darrell Wallace Jr. During the break, the NASCAR officials noticed some oil was dripping out from underneath the race car. Brian Fraser lobbied to the NASCAR officials saying there's no oil leaking, it's not on the bumper cover or anything, it's only dripping down on the header and burning off. But when the car was parked, it was dripping on the ground. NASCAR saw it and told Darrell Wallace, you have to go to the rear of the field.
From leading this race to all the way to the back, that actually just puts an exclamation point on 2012 for Darrell Wallace Jr.
Boy, it really does, though. But with 50 laps, as good as his car's been now, he can make his way back towards the front. And he set a pretty hard pace here. He was able to lead that entire first half of this race. So I think these guys know that they can go as hard as they can here, given what the track's going to give them.
And Kyle Larson doing just that. He's got Corey LaJoie just in front of him. Your point leader, Kyle Larson, in the 6, running just behind the 07 of Corey LaJoie. Coming into this race, LaJoie 19 points back from point leader Kyle Larson.
Let's don't forget now, Brett Moffitt has made his way up to the 2nd position. That's Brett right there. Remember, he has to get up front here, try to put some space between he and Kyle Larson. He hasn't led this race yet, but either has Kyle Larson. But Kyle Larson now goes to the outside of LaJoie.
Trying to take the spot away from LaJoie. They're side by side as they cross the stripe. Larson has the advantage this time by.
Remember, we talked about how there is some grip around this racetrack on the high side. We've seen Tyler Reddick, that 16-year-old, the 98, use the high side a lot. Now we see Kyle Larson trying to do the same thing.
Tyler Reddick on the outside. Coleman Presley on the inside. Way up the racetrack goes Tyler Reddick.
Sergio Pena's looking pretty good right now in that 1 car in front of Kyle Larson in the 6.
To Sergio Pena has made his way up all the way from the back of the field. They changed a motor before the start of this race that put him to the back, and so now they've worked their way up into the top 10. Points championship on the line. Kyle Larson, he can see his closest competitor, but he's still in front of him. And welcome back. Jesse Little out in front of the field. Brett Moffitt running second. Tyler Reddick, Sergio Pena, Kyle Larson into the top 5. We mentioned earlier, Kyle Larson can finish 5th in this race. It doesn't matter what Brett Moffitt does. Kyle Larson will win this championship.
Yeah, Kyle Larson right now is trying to get another spot from the 1 car, Sergio Pena. See Coleman Presley all the way to the top side of the racetrack. Corey LaJoie right down on the bottom.
4 cars all racing for position. In front of him, Tyler Reddick running in that 2nd spot.
Right now, Kyle Larson is in the spot he needs to be. Now 3 wide.
3 wide for position. Larson on the bottom of the racetrack. Pena right in the middle. And Coleman Presley working the high line.
That's what we're used to seeing here at Rockingham Speedway. 3 wide racing all over the racetrack, these guys are.
Searching for grip. 3 wide once again. Contact between Kyle Larson and Sergio Pena. Kyle Larson looks as though he's trying to win this race. He's not thinking big picture now in the championship.
Well, he knows he has to get up into the top 5, and that's right now where he's racing for, trying to get to the top 5.
Kyle Larson slid up into the 1 of Sergio Pena. Let's see if that did any damage to either car.
See, Corey LaJoie's going to try to get by on the high side. He is going to be able to make the pass on the 6 of Kyle Larson.
So now after that contact, Kyle Larson has dropped back just a bit, just off the pace. Coleman Presley, Sergio Pena, Corey LaJoie, and Kyle Larson.
Anxious moments right now for Kyle Larson. The only thing he has in his favor is the fact that Brett Moffitt is running 2nd right now. Remember, there's a 3-point bonus for winning. If Brett Moffitt doesn't win, then Kyle Larson's finishing position is not near as high as it would have to be otherwise.
He's trying to stay at least within 10 positions right now of Brett Moffitt so that he can hang on for this championship. But as you mentioned, if Brett Moffitt does get up there and gets in position for this win, that would mean that he would have to finish in the top 5. I mean, Kyle Larson has to finish 5th or better if Brett Moffitt wins this race.
Remember now, Brett Moffitt has not led this race, and we're 3/4 of the way through it, so he will not lead the most laps. So that's 1 point he's not going to be able to get. So now that means that Kyle Larson can finish 6th and clinch and win this championship.
And right now he's outside of that 6th position. As a matter of fact, he's in 7th running on the racetrack behind the 1 of Sergio Pena and Corey LaJoie that are just in front of him.
You think Kyle Larson is pulling for Jesse Little right now?
I think Kyle Larson might be the president of the Jesse Little fan club.
Still have 25 laps to go here. A lot can happen at this very, very slick racetrack.
Jesse Little out in front. Again, Brett Moffitt has made his way up into the top 3. Tyler Reddick up there as well. This battle continues for the 4th spot.
We see these guys moving around the racetrack a little more in this half of the race than we did the first half of the race. We saw Tyler Reddick up on the top side of the racetrack. Now we see a number of cars up there searching for grip.
And here comes Kyle Larson. A little more momentum now, running a little higher line as they still battle in front of him for position. Sergio Pena running that high line. Corey LaJoie looks as though about to lose that position to Sergio Pena. But Kyle Larson running that higher line has the momentum now.
I think Kyle Larson would love to get in front of these 2 cars to have a little bit of cushion now over Brett Moffitt. A little more cushion, I should say.
Presley running in the 4th spot. Pena and LaJoie continue to battle for the 5th position. And just behind them in 7th, that is the 6 of Kyle Larson, your points leader.
You see the momentum that Kyle Larson gets from the high side. He gets a little bit straighter shot up off the corner. You can see him gain on LaJoie at the exit of the corners.
Now he ducks down right behind the 07 as they come out of turn number 4. Pena just in front of LaJoie. Right behind him, Kyle Larson.
Approaching 20 laps to go in this season and championship. How about Corey LaJoie now going for that spot on Sergio Pena?
Trying to take 5th away from Pena once again. The momentum in the hands of the 6 of Kyle Larson as he's going to look to the outside of that 07.
Poor Corey got a good run through the center of the corner from the bottom, but Sam Hunt's in his way.
Little lap traffic's going to cause a pick for Corey LaJoie. He has to check up. Larson goes by for that position.
Larson looks to the bottom. Oh, trouble on the backstretch. We have a car sliding down the backstretch upside down.
I think that's the 26 of Dylan. Sure enough, 26 of Dylan Presnell upside down on the backstretch.
Wow, you see a little bit of fire. Probably knocked the carburetor off the engine there.
And safety crews will immediately get to that race car and make sure that Dylan Presnell gets out of there okay. And Chase Elliott made his way onto pit road. Derek, what's going on?
Chase Elliott brings the Aaron's Dream Machine down into his pit area. The car going up in the air. They're going to change a new right front tire. Actually, they're going to put a used tire on the car. You cannot put new tires on. You can definitely see how the tire is going away. And unfortunately, Chase Elliott's going to lose some valuable positions out there.
You know, when this accident happens, Dylan Presnell's upside down, but I think there was another car involved. It looked like Jorge Artiega in the 8 was also involved in the incident on the backstretch. And NASCAR's going to pull the red flag out and stop this field on the racetrack so that they can.
Oh, great view right there. See Dylan Presnell getting out of that car. Dust himself off a little bit. That's great to see.
So Dylan Presnell, a wild ride here at Rockingham, upside down, down the backstretch, slid almost the entire backstretch.
Sure did. You see him look back as we watch a replay here. There's Artiaga, the 8 cars you mentioned, right at the inside wall.
Cleanup continues when we come back. Less than 20 laps remaining in the 2012 season. Cleanup is over. Pace car off the racetrack, Jesse Little and Brett Moffitt side by side for the green flag restart.
Well, this is Brett Moffitt's chance. We know there's a lot of grip on the high side. Good start, though, by Jesse Little. Let's see what Moffitt can do with him.
Jesse Little hugs that yellow line as they go through 1 and 2. Moffitt tucks in behind him, running second. Down the backstretch they go. A little smoke from the speedy dry on the backstretch.
Coleman Presley jumps to the outside, trying to get a run on Tyler Reddick. How about Moffitt all over the back of Jesse Little?
Coming out of turn 4, trying to make a run. And not quite there at the stripe, but now going into turn number 1. Brett Moffitt charges by that 97 of Jesse Little. Moffitt takes the lead at Rockingham.
Brett Moffitt now is in position, doing all he can do. All he has to worry about now is where that 6 of Kyle Larson is.
You know, we talked about the speedy dry and such, but I think the 18 is still smoking. I saw some smoke coming out of the back of that 18 as he's trying to make his way back up to the front.
And not in touch with their leaders here. So we see Brett Moffitt now open up about a 5-car length lead over Jesse Little.
And guess where Kyle Larson's running? In the 6th spot. Exactly where he would have to finish if they were going to tie, but he would lose the championship to Moffitt if they would finish this way.
Right now we've got some good cars behind Kyle Larson as he looks to the outside, trying to get a run on the 07 of Corey LaJoie.
He knows he needs one more position. He's got to get by another car. Moffitt out in front, 13 laps to go.
See Kyle Larson trying to work his way around the outside of Corey LaJoie. He's side by side with him right now, 3 wide.
Kyle Larson trying to take another spot, give him a cushion in this championship.
He's right where he needs to be right now. He cannot afford to lose one more spot. He'd like, as you mentioned, he'd like to get a couple of spots cushion.
Trailing that 07 of Corey LaJoie around this racetrack. Almost on an island right now is Kyle Larson running in the spot he has to finish in if Brett Moffitt wins this race.
You see the one of Sergio Pena. He's caught this group right here. Sergio's only a couple car lengths behind Larson.
And Larson cannot give up a spot. Now he gets a run on the 15 of Coleman Presley. Looks to the inside, trying to take that position away.
Meanwhile, right behind them, the smoking car of Darrell Wallace Jr. is getting by Sergio Pena. Now we have a 3-wide battle for second.
3 wide for second on the inside. Corey LaJoie on the outside. Tyler Reddick right in the middle. That is the 97 of Jesse Little. What a great battle for this second spot. Tyler Reddick has it now as he's been able to get by that 07. So Reddick up to second, Derek.
Well, that 98's running in the top 5 right now, and it's got everyone on pit road saying, who is that guy? Well, his name is Tyler Reddick. He's from Corning, California. He's a dirt late model driver, and this is his very first K&N race. He's got 2 ARCA starts to his credit at Salem and Mobile. He's only 16 years old. He's really a dirt specialist, and when I asked him what's it like racing on pavement, he said it's like a night and day difference. It looks like it's coming to him pretty quickly because he's got a strong run going.
Inside of 10 laps to go, Tyler Reddick battling with Corey LaJoie. LaJoie 5 wins this year, and Tyler Reddick making his first ever K&N Pro Series East start.
Yeah, driving for a veteran, Kenny Schrader, in that 98 car. How about side by side back there, Darrell Wallace Jr. and Kyle Larson?
How about Kyle Larson trying to hang on to this position? If he loses this spot, he'll be on the outside looking at his championship go away.
Darrell Wallace Jr. has made his way all the way from the back of the field at the halftime break.
Great battle inside of 8 laps of racing to go. Can Brett Moffitt hang on? Who will win the championship? Stay with us. Here at Rockingham, Moffitt out in front. Reddick, LaJoy, Little, and Presley are top 5. Outside that top 5, the 6 of Kyle Larson. He's been able to stay in front of the 18 of Darrell Wallace Jr. He has to stay in front of Darrell Wallace Jr. if he wants to win this championship.
See him jump to the inside, trying to get by the 15 of Coleman Presley. Coleman has the momentum for the high side. Darrell Wallace Jr., though, is right there within a couple car lengths.
Presley 5th, Larson 6th, Wallace Jr. 7th. As they work around this racetrack, still the smoke coming out of the 18. Larson with momentum looks to the inside of Coleman Presley once again.
And you know his crew guys and crew chiefs telling him, you need to get another spot. You're okay now, but Darrell Wallace Jr. is coming.
You cannot give up a spot. A little bobble there as they came out of the turn. Kyle Larson lost some momentum. Here comes Darrell Wallace Jr. once again.
Boy, Darrell looked like he had a run going on the outside, then his momentum stalled out here. Now he's going to go to the high side. He's going to be up above Kyle Larson.
Looks to the backside of that 6. Little contact made. Darrell Wallace Jr. into the back of the 6, turned him sideways. Now Darrell Wallace Jr. working on the bottom of the racetrack.
It was a great save by Kyle Larson. Now Darrell Wallace Jr. moves way up the racetrack.
He is going to take him out of this championship. You just saw the 18 of Darrell Wallace Jr. waving at the 6 as he went by. Now Kyle Larson on the outside looking in for this championship.
Here's a replay of this bump. He gets him sideways. Kyle Larson does a great job. He lifts the back tires up off the racetrack. He does a great job saving that car. He could have easily gotten to the outside wall.
Brett Moffitt out in front of this field. He wouldn't even believe what was going on behind him right now if he could see it. Darrell Wallace Jr., Kyle Larson. Larson coming in, your points leader, had to finish at least 6th if he wanted to claim this championship, now running in the 7th spot.
Just 5 laps to go now. He has not given up. Kyle Larson right on the back bumper of that 18 of Darrell Wallace Jr. 4 cars battling for the 4th position.
As they run, Kyle Larson and Brett Moffitt would tie in the points, and the championship would go to Brett Moffitt on the tiebreaker.
3 wins to 2. He's got a comfortable lead now with 4 laps to go. Although Tyler Reddick, the 98 car, is moving in on him just a little bit.
Kyle Larson has to get by one of these cars in front of him if he wants to claim this championship. Moffitt trying to claim the championship for the first time in the K&N Pro Series East.
What a move by Darrell Wallace Jr. He gets by Jesse Little. Now he's going after Coleman Presley. Larson on the high side trying to get by Jesse Little.
Trying to use that momentum. 3 laps of racing to go. 3 more miles in the 2012 season. And here comes Kyle Larson trying to get by Jesse Little on the high side.
He's got the momentum. See what he loses a little bit of ground through the center of the corner. Jesse Little ahead again.
And now Kyle Larson looking to the inside of that 97 of Jesse Little, trying to find grip around this racetrack, trying to win a championship.
Kyle Larson knows that he has to get another position if Brett Moffitt is going to go on and win this race.
Only 2 laps of racing to go. Moffitt out in front, trying to claim the championship and the win here at Rockingham, doing everything he can do.
Looks like Kyle Larson is losing a little bit of ground as we see the 98 of Tyler Reddick has moved in on the 11 of Brett Moffitt.
So Tyler Reddick now challenging for the race win here at Rockingham with 1 lap to go. They're separated by 3 feet. Moffitt on the bottom of the racetrack. Here comes the 98. Tyler Reddick making the move on the high side, trying to take this win away from Moffitt. Moffitt up the race. Contact is made. Moffitt into the wall. Moffitt, your championship contender, spins going down the backstretch. Tyler Reddick takes the lead.
And the caution flag is coming out. You see all the smoke on the backstretch. This race is over.
Unbelievable finish here at Rockingham. Brett Moffitt moves up the racetrack. Contact is made. Tyler Reddick is going to win this race.
Look at all the damage to the 11 car Brett Moffitt. He's within 1/2 lap of winning a championship. He makes contact with Reddick. Around it goes into the inside wall, and there is your 2012 champion.
Unbelievable finish once again at Rockingham. Kyle Larson was on the outside looking in for this championship, and Moffitt gets into the side of the 98, into the wall, stopped on the backstretch. Kyle Larson is going to win the championship. Tyler Reddick, the 16-year-old, is going to win this race.
In his first ever start. Let's take a look at the replay. You see Brett Moffitt all the way down on the bottom. Reddick with a good run up off the corner. He gets his nose up in there. Looks like Brett Moffitt thought he might have been clear. He wasn't. and he made contact with the outside wall and then into the inside wall as Reddick drives by.
Those two had separated themselves from the field, and that allowed the 98 of Reddick to be able to hang on for this win. He had to check up to try to avoid the 11 coming down the racetrack.
And you can see from that replay, Tyler Reddick did not come down into Brett Moffitt. Brett just moved up the racetrack a little bit. What a heartbreaker for that young man.
A very disappointed Brett Moffitt leaving his car. He'll go to the infield care center, but the elation for the 2012 champion, Kyle Larson, winning it in the K&N Pro Series East.
Are you sure?
In an amazing turn of events, Kyle Larson is going to claim the 2012 championship in the K&N Pro Series East. Let's hear from him.
Kyle Larson joins Ryan Truex and Joey Logano as rookie champions of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. He wins his first ever NASCAR title. Kyle, NASCAR K&N Pro Series champion. How does that sound to you?
It sounds great. You know, I don't think I could have got any luckier there with Brett wrecking. He had the championship there on the last lap, and you know, I caught a break with him wrecking, and you know, Darrell tried to wreck me on the backstretch with about 5 to go, but you know, I think good karma was on my side for you know, him trying to get into me. But you know, got to thank the whole Rev Racing crew and Toyota and just everybody. You know, I got to thank the whole NASCAR Drive for Diversity program for giving me this opportunity to, you know, come race in this series. It's a lot of fun and really tough, and just glad I got the chance to run with these guys. And you know, I get to join Joey Logano and Ryan Truex as the only rookie and champion, so it feels pretty good.
Guys, folks at home, Kyle Larson is your 2012 NASCAR K&N Pro Series champion.
And pretty impressive company that he joins. How about the 16-year-old Tyler Reddick, who also is in victory lane, able to celebrate his first ever win? And then you see the problems. The 11 of Brett Moffitt, not happy at all. Let's hear from our race winner, Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick becomes a first-time winner here in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series in his very first K&N Pro Series start, and almost spins out on the hood of the roof of the car. Tyler, congratulations, your very first K&N Pro Series win.
Yeah, our Broken Bow Dodge was really good. You know, I got to thank Ken Schrader, Chad Boat for being the team owner and everything like that. We had a really fast car. You know, there at the end, we kind of came in our own on the top. We were faster at the end. It's just a shame that, you know, me and the 11 got together. You know, I was alongside him going in the corner. He should have just left me a lane, you know, so we would have had a great finish at the end. But, you know, if I would have gave it back to him, then he would have had the win. So didn't really appreciate that, but tough race, and last thing I want to do is wreck somebody to get the win, but we'll take what we can.
Tyler Reddick is a first-time winner here at The Rock.
You know, sound pretty mature for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be hearing a little bit more about that young man.
Take a look at our unofficial results. Reddick, LaJoie, Wallace Jr., Presley, and Little after Brett Moffitt spins out down the back stretch. Take a look at where he falls, not even in the top 20.
Yeah, so many cars here on the lead lap. That's why he fell out of the top 20. What a horrible, heartbreaking moment for Brett Moffitt.
Brett Moffitt ends up in the 21st position. We gave him a chance to kind of cool off a little bit after the incident, and now let's hear from Brett Moffitt.
Well, down here in the pits with a very disappointed Brett Moffitt, the driver of the number 11 car. A wild last lap. Can you tell us what happened?
He just got outside of me going through 1 and 2, and I kind of slid up off 2, and he just caught my right rear quarter panel and turned us to the fence.
It's got to be such a heartbreak because last year you lost the championship with a cut tire. This year you lose it on the last lap. What have you got to do to finally get a title?
I don't know. The past 4 weeks I don't know how you can explain how bad they've been. We've had dominating race cars and been leading at the end, and stuff happens and takes us out. But you know, hopefully we'll get something figured out for next year and get on a roll then.
Well, guys, you can hear how frustrated he is. He's a man of few words right now. It's a tough break for Brett Moffitt.
Disappointment for Brett Moffitt, going from almost winning the race and the championship to finishing 21st. As we take a look at the final point standings after 14 races, Kyle Larson, Corey LaJoie, Brett Moffitt slides to 3rd.
Yeah, Brett didn't even end up in 2nd spot. What a horrible break. Chase Elliott with a great season. Brian Ortiz was very, very impressive as a rookie, also finishes 5th in points.
So the East Series has been determined. The West Series will be determined in Phoenix. That's the next race for the K&N Pro Series. It will be the West Battle that will take place in Phoenix. A lot of battling took place this year here in the K&N Pro Series East.
But at the end of it, Kyle Larson, a very, very mature youngster, ends up as our champion.
So many times we saw the 07 of Corey LaJoie in victory lane, but in the end, it was the 6 of Kyle Larson able to claim the championship on the 2012 season.